Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing something I've been wanting to do for a really long time, and I'm going to be ranking the Beatles albums. So I'm going to be ranking all 12 Beatles studio albums, so not including Yellow Submarine and not including any anthology albums or singles collections. This is just the 12 English versions of the studio albums for the most part, except for Magical Mystery Tour, which was a US release initially, but I'm going to be rating them just based on the songs that are on the album, how cohesive it is as an album as a whole, and my personal preferences. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into this with my number 12 pick, Beatles for Sale. So this album is the Beatles' fourth studio album. It came out after A Hard Day's Night. They'd been doing the Hard Day's Night movie and the album, which we'll get to in a bit. And, of course, they were very busy touring. Beatlemania had taken over, and they seemed to be very tired when they made that record, if you get what my meaning. So, in general, they just seemed to be kind of tired when they made the record, and there's some really good songs on the record for sure. Of course, there's 8 Days a Week, just absolute classic. I'll Follow the Sun is a really nice one. Of course, there's No Reply. There's some covers on there, Kansas City, rock and roll music. But overall, there's not too much that's very memorable about Beatles for Sale as an album. There's just not a lot that is memorable. So next up at number 11 is going to be Let It Be. This was the Beatles' last official released studio album and their second to last album to be recorded for the most part. So this was, I believe, around 68, 69 when they recorded this one. It was released in 1970, about the time they broke up, but, and of course, this doesn't really feel like a complete album to me. The Beatles were fighting a lot, especially John Lennon and Paul McCartney were just fighting a lot at that point. We're going in such different directions musically, which I respect. I think they both did some good solo work, so I respect their different musical directions. Of course, Paul McCartney was going for the more upbeat pop stuff, and John Lennon was going for a lot more introspective and also political music at the time. So, basically, the two of them just kind of had a bunch of songs that didn't really go together. For instance, obviously, Two of Us is just a Paul McCartney song, and Across the Universe is just a John Lennon song. They didn't really play on each other's songs much. I don't think Ringo really has a song on the album. He doesn't sing anything. George has I Me Mine. There's a few other nice songs on here. I mean, I don't mind Dig a Pony. I like I Got a Feeling. I mean, I've Got a Feeling, not I Got a Feeling like a Black Eyed Peas song, but I've Got a Feeling, feeling deep inside, oh yeah, that one. Of course, One After 909 and Let It Be. There's some good songs on here. A lot of the stuff on here is just fragments of songs like Dig It, Maggie May, and of course, let's not even get into the overproduced strings of The Long and Winding Road and Phil Spector's production of this album. Just not good. And to be honest, I have heard other versions of Long and Winding Road, anthology version that I think on the Naked album of Let It Be. If you want going to listen to Let It Be, listen to the Naked version, it's a lot better. But, it's overall, that is my opinion of the album. Next up at number 10 is going to be With the Beatles. This was the Beatles' second studio album, and this was still very, I could say, when John Lennon was still very much the frontman of the band, and of course, there's some nice songs on this album as well. I really like All I've Gotta Do. Of course, It Won't Be Long is a good song, and of course, Ringo's song on here, I Want to Be Your Man, and a really underrated early George Harrison song, Don't Bother Me. I just really like the melody of that one, especially. And there's a lot of nice stuff on here. Of course, Till There Was You, which Paul McCartney sings, and there's a lot of nice songs on here, but overall, again, not a very cohesive album, and not a lot of stuff on the back half of it. So overall, just kind of ends up at number 10. Next up at number 9 is going to be Please Please Me. This is the debut Beatles album. This was recorded in one day, and it's really quite impressive for being recorded in one day. Of course, there are some classic songs on this album, of course, I Saw Her Standing There, which is sung by Paul McCartney, just a really catchy song, and there's a lot of nice stuff on there. Again, still very much of a John Lennon-led band, if you know what I mean. And, of course, Anna, that's a really nice cover, of course. And there's some other songs on this album, like, that are nice, like, I like Misery, of course. There's Boys, which is Ringo's song on the album, and P.S. I Love You, which I believe is Georgia. I believe it was Georgia. I don't remember, but I believe it was. And, of course, A Taste of Honey toward the end of the album, and we can't forget Twist and Shout. So very, very, very good debut for being recorded in a day. Next up at number 8 is going to be A Hard Day's Night. This album was their third studio album, and it was their first movie. Not my favorite Beatles movie, but I do definitely enjoy the album. So the first side of the thing is all movie songs. Of course, the title track, Hard Day's Night, and I Should Have Known Better. Just a really good song. And, of course, If I Fell, the harmonies on there with, of course, Lennon and McCartney and George Harrison. Just very good harmonies on that song, and very nice. And, of course, there's some really good Paul McCartney vocals on here, too. You've got And I Love Her, which is a really nice song. And from the backside of the album, you've got very underrated Things We Said Today. And I can't not mention Can't Buy Me Love, because that song is just absolutely fantastic. Again, overall, not a whole album, not like a complex album or anything, but there's a lot of charm to be found here. And even the last song, I'll Be Back, it's definitely a go, but there's some other songs, like When I Get Home, and just some other songs which I don't think are as good, but it's not a bad album by far. Next up at number 7 is Magical Mystery Tour. I believe this was the 9th studio album. And this was the interesting one that was actually not released initially as an album in the UK. It was released as an EP and released as an album in the USA. So the reason this one is only at number 7, it does have a lot of fantastic songs, but it's not really a cohesive project. The first side of the album is all movie songs, which was their third movie. Very bizarre little TV movie type thing. I've seen it. It was very interesting. But I will say that the songs from the movie are not horrible, but they're not great either. Definitely the standout tracks are Paul McCartney's The Fool on the Hill and George Harrison's Blue Jay Way, and of course John Lennon's I Am a Walrus. This is definitely the standout tracks from it. Of course, there's Flying, which all 4 Beatles got credit on. This is another album where Ringo doesn't really have a song. Of course, the title track is okay, and then there's Your Mother Should Know, which is a cute song as well, but there's just not a lot to it. And then on the backside, it's just a collection of singles. So you have All You Need Is Love, which is a good song, and Baby You're a Rich Man, which I'm not a big fan of, honestly. And then you have, of course, Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane, both wonderful songs. And, of course, Hello, Goodbye, another wonderful song. But it doesn't feel like, pretty much every song on here is good, but it doesn't feel like a, cohesive unit still. So, alright, making it into the top half is going to be Help! This was from the Beatles' second movie, their 5th studio album from the second movie. It's a really solid studio album overall. I love, of course, the movie songs are absolutely fantastic. John Lennon had some really good songs on here. Of course, the title track and Ticket to Ride. We can't forget that. You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. Just some really good songs. Of course, George Harrison's song, I Need You. And Ringo has a song on the side B, which are not movie songs, Act Naturally, and of course John Lennon ends up the album with Dizzy Miss Lizzy. But of course, there's some definite hidden gems on here. Of course, in terms of Paul McCartney, of course, the masterpiece Yesterday. I considered that the moment he came into his own as a songwriter. So that is on side B, and of course, there's a bunch of other albums which ended up being higher as well, a bunch of other songs. So there's not anything that's really bad on this album. You've got I've Just Seen a Face, that's a cute song. It's just not as good as some of the others. It's Only Love, that's a really nice song as well. I forgot about that one. And of course you've got some other McCartney songs from the movie, like Another Girl, and of course my favorite, The Night Before. Just absolute fantastic songs there, and there's not too much I can say about it. Then next up at number 5, we have Revolver. This was the Beatles' 7th studio album, and this was, I'm not sure if this was the first one they made after they stopped touring, or I think they were still touring some at the time they made this. This was in 1966, and this album basically is a very psychedelic kind of thing. Both John and George are doing this very nasally thing with their vowels throughout the vocals of the entire album. George Harrison has 3 songs on this album. He has Love You Too, which is a really cool Indian twinge song, and he has I Want to Tell You, and of course Taxman, which opens the album. Absolutely fantastic rhythm guitar in that as well by John Lennon, and I believe Paul McCartney did the guitar solo in Taxman, so very interesting. So absolutely fantastic George Harrison songs there, and of course Ringo sings Yellow Submarine on the album, which of course later got turned into an animated movie. And there's some other songs on here by Lennon, of course Dr. Robert, Andy Birkin sing She Said, She Said, which I really like personally, and I'm Only Sleeping. But if you're going to go with, and of course the end track Tomorrow Never Knows, which is completely bonkers, but if you're going to go with the standout singer on here, I'm going to go with Paul McCartney, and I believe that this is the moment where this is the album where they switched frontmen, if you know what I mean. They sort of swapped. This is the first album I say Lennon takes a back seat to McCartney and even Harrison on this album. And George Harrison, again, very amazing work on this album. But Paul McCartney, I haven't even touched Paul McCartney's work. Of course, the fantastic Eleanor Rigby, and Here, There, and Everywhere, of course, very upbeat, Got to Get You Into My Life, and Good Day Sunshine. And I have to talk about the hidden gem that is For No One. I don't know why no one talks about this song. Apparently, he had gone through a breakup with Jane Asher, and this song is just so beautiful melodically. You should go listen to it. I'm not playing anything due to not wanting to have copyright infringement, but I do think it's really interesting, so definitely a fantastic, fantastic album. Alright guys, so this video is getting a little bit long. I'm going to make it part 2. I'm just going to put part 2 down below. If you haven't seen part 2, I'm sure it will be up very soon, if it's not up already, and so if you like this video, click like, leave your rankings down below, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye.